Everyone tells stories where they are the hero. This is not that story. One night, everything changed. I was lying in bed at 2 a.m., and I realized something that made me feel sick. I had become the woman who made my life miserable for 20 years. This is the story I was most afraid to tell you, because in this one, I am not the hero. I am the one who had to learn, and that is harder than any fight I have ever been in. Before I tell you what happened, if you're new here, subscribe. Turn on notifications. I don't want to lose you. These stories travel far. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from tonight. I like knowing who's sitting with me. My son's wife looked me in the eye and said, "Tia Rosa, I know you love them, but they are my children, not yours. You cannot do whatever you want." I was standing in her living room. Miguel was sitting on the couch. He was looking at the floor. He would not look at me. And Jennifer, my son's wife, the mother of my 3 grandchildren, was telling me I could not see them whenever I wanted. I felt my face get hot. My hands were shaking. I said, "I am their grandmother. I have a right." Jennifer cut me off. She said, "You do not have a right to show up unannounced. You do not have a right to undermine me in front of my children. You do not have a right to ignore my rules in my house." I looked at Miguel. I waited for him to defend me, to tell Jennifer she was being disrespectful, but he did not say anything. He just sat there, looking at the floor. That was 3 months ago, and I am still learning what it means. Let me tell you how it started. When Javier died in 2020, I lost my husband, but I still had my children. And then Miguel got married, and I had grandchildren, Leo, Isabella, and Mateo. 3 beautiful children. And I thought, this is my second chance. I raised Miguel and Sophia while working 2 jobs. I was always tired. I was always rushing. But now I had time. Now I could be the grandmother I always wanted to be. So I showed up every weekend, sometimes during the week. I brought food. I brought toys. I took the kids to the park. I helped with homework. I stayed for dinner. I thought I was helping. Jennifer smiled. She said thank you, but I could see it in her face. She was not happy. She was just being polite. I told myself, she is just stressed. She works full-time. She has 3 kids. She should be grateful I am here. But then, small things started happening. One Saturday, I showed up at 9 a.m. with pan dulce for the kids. Jennifer opened the door in her pajamas. She looked tired. She said, "Rosa, we were still sleeping. You did not call." I said, "I do not need to call. I am their abuela." She did not say anything. She just let me in. Another time, I was watching the kids while Jennifer ran errands. Mateo asked for candy. Jennifer had told him no before she left, but I gave it to him anyway. I said, "Your mama is not here right now. It is okay." When Jennifer came home and saw the candy wrappers, she pulled me aside. She said, "Rosa, when I say no, I need you to say no too." I said, "It is just candy. You are being too strict." She looked at me for a long time. Then she said, "Okay," but her voice was cold. I told my comadre Lupita about it. I said, "Jennifer does not appreciate me. I do everything for those kids, and she treats me like I am a stranger." Lupita said, "Mija, maybe you should talk to her." I said, "I do not need to talk to her. I am the grandmother. I know what I am doing." But things got worse. One afternoon, I picked up Leo from school without asking Jennifer first. I thought, I am helping. She works late on Thursdays. I will save her the trip. But when I brought Leo home, Jennifer was standing in the driveway. She was on the phone with the school. Her face was white. When she saw me, she hung up. She said, "Where is Leo?" I said, "He is right here. I picked him up. I was helping." She did not say thank you. She said, "You did not tell me. I did not know where my son was. Do you know what that feels like?" I said, "You are overreacting." She said, "Get out of my house." I left. I was angry. I thought, I am trying to help, and she is treating me like a criminal. I did not talk to her for a week. but I missed the kids. So the next Saturday, I showed up again. I brought tamales. I thought, she will forgive me. Food fixes everything. But when Jennifer opened the door, she did not smile. She said, "Rosa, we need to talk." That is when Miguel came into the room. He said, "Mama, sit down." And that is when Jennifer said it. "Tia Rosa, I know you love them, but they are my children, not yours. You cannot do whatever you want." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her she was ungrateful, that I was just trying to love my grandchildren, that she was keeping them from me. But I did not say any of that, because Miguel finally looked at me and he said, "Mama, she is right." I felt like someone punched me in the chest. I could not breathe. I said, "You are taking her side?" He said, "There are no sides, Mama, but you have to respect her boundaries. She is their mother." I left. I got in my car. I sat in their driveway for 10 minutes, crying. I could not believe my own son was turning against me. I went home. I did not call Miguel for 3 days. I did not call Jennifer. I just went to work, came home, and sat in my apartment thinking, I lost my husband, and now I am losing my grandchildren. But then, on the 4th night, I could not sleep. I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling, and I started thinking about Señora Santos, Javier's mother. When Miguel was born, she came to the hospital. She looked at him in my arms and said, "You are holding him wrong." When he was 6 months old, she came to our apartment and rearranged my kitchen. She said, "This is how a proper home should look." When he was 3, she told me I was feeding him wrong, dressing him wrong, talking to him wrong. She made me feel like I was not good enough to be his mother. I hated her for that. I hated the way she came into my house and acted like my son belonged to her. I hated the way she made me feel small. And lying there in my bed at 2 a.m., I realized something that made me feel sick. I had become her. I was doing to Jennifer exactly what Señora Santos did to me. I got up, I turned on the light, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook, and I started writing. Every time I showed up without calling, every time I gave the kids something Jennifer said no to, every time I undermined her in front of them, every time I stayed when I should have left, I counted 10 incidents. In 3 months. 10 times I crossed a line. 10 times I acted like Jennifer's children were mine. 10 times I made her feel the way Señora Santos made me feel. I sat there looking at that list, and I cried because I love Jennifer. I love my grandchildren, and I had hurt them, not on purpose, but I hurt them. The next morning I called Miguel. I said, "I need help." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I need to talk to someone. A professional, someone who can help me understand what I did wrong." Miguel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Mama, I am proud of you." He gave me the number for a family therapist. Her name was Dr. Laura Mendez. She had an office near the Galleria. I called her that afternoon. I went to my first session on a Tuesday. I was nervous. I had never talked to a therapist before. I thought, what if she tells me I am a terrible person? What if she agrees with Jennifer? But Dr. Mendez was kind. She was maybe 50 years old. She had soft eyes. She said, "Tell me what brings you here." I told her everything. I showed her my list. I told her about Señora Santos. I told her about Jennifer's face when I picked up Leo without asking. I told her about Miguel looking at the floor. And then I said the thing I had been afraid to say out loud. I am afraid they are going to forget me. I am afraid if I am not there all the time, the kids will stop loving me. Dr. Mendez nodded. She said, "Rosa, can I ask you something? When you show up at Jennifer's house unannounced, who is that for? Is it for the children or is it for you?" I opened my mouth to say, "For the children," but I stopped because I knew the truth. It was for me. I was the one who needed them. I was the one who was lonely. I was the one who lost Javier and did not know how to fill the space he left. So I filled it with my grandchildren. I filled it with control. I filled it with being needed. But I was not thinking about what they needed. I was only thinking about what I needed. I sat in Dr. Mendez's office and I cried. I said, "I do not know how to fix this." She said, "You start by apologizing. Not a small apology, a real one. You name what you did wrong. You take responsibility. And then you ask, what do you need from me? I went to 3 sessions with Dr. Mendez. Each time I understood a little more. I understood that boundaries are not rejection, they are protection. I understood that loving someone does not give you the right to control them. I understood that being a grandmother is not the same as being a mother. And then I asked Miguel to set up a meeting. Just him, me, and Jennifer. We met at their house on a Sunday afternoon. The kids were at Jennifer's mother's house. It was just the 3 of us. I sat on their couch. I had my list in my hands. My palms were sweating. I said, Jennifer, I need to say something, and I need you to let me finish. She nodded. She looked scared. I said, I was wrong. I have been wrong for months. I showed up without calling. I ignored your rules. I undermined you in front of your children. I made you feel like you were not a good mother, and I am sorry. I looked down at my list. My hands were shaking. I said, I wrote down every time I crossed a line. I want to read them to you so you know I understand. I read the whole list, all 10 incidents. When I finished, I looked up. Jennifer was crying. She said, Rosa, I do not think you are a bad person. I just want to be a good mother, and I feel like you do not think I am. I said, I do think you are a good mother. I was just so afraid of losing my grandchildren that I forgot. They are not mine to lose. They are yours to raise. Jennifer wiped her eyes. She said, I do not want to keep them from you. I just need you to respect me. I need you to trust me. I said, I will. I promise. We sat there for a long time. Miguel was crying too. He put his hand on mine. He said, Thank you, Mama. That was 2 months ago, and I have kept my promise. I call before I visit. I ask Jennifer what the rules are, and I follow them. I do not stay longer than I am invited. I do not give the kids things she says no to. And you know what? I still see them every week, sometimes twice a week. But now when I am there, Jennifer is relaxed. She smiles. She trusts me. And the kids, they are happy. They do not feel torn between their mother and their grandmother. They just feel loved. It is not the ending I wanted. I wanted to be right. I wanted Jennifer to apologize to me. I wanted to keep doing whatever I wanted because I am the grandmother and I deserve it. But I learned something. Being right is not the same as being loving, and sometimes love means letting go. Some of you will be angry at me for telling this story. Some of you will say I should not have apologized, that grandmothers have rights, that Jennifer was being too sensitive, and maybe you are right. But I remember Senora Santos. I remember how she made me feel, and I do not want to be that person. I do not want my grandchildren to grow up and tell their therapist, my grandmother did not respect my mother. I want them to say, my grandmother loved us enough to respect our mother. Today, I still work in the hospital kitchen. I still make food trays. But on Saturdays, I wait for Jennifer to call me. And when she does, I ask, what time should I come? What can I bring? What do the kids need? And that feels better than showing up unannounced ever did. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment. Tell me, have you ever loved someone so much you forgot where they ended and you began? Have you ever had to apologize for something you thought was love? I am listening. I am always listening.